Today's story dates back to 1982, and the Misfits had just released their first studio record, Walk Among Us. It was during the tour to support the band's first record that they would descend on the city of New Orleans for a show, but following the concert, the members found themselves in handcuffs alongside a kid who would go on to front a popular metal band in the 90s. Stay tuned for the full story. On October 17, 1982, the Misfits were in the Big Easy to play a show. It was following the performance the band, along with their opening act and about 30 members of their entourage, which included strippers, paid a late-night visit to the St. Louis Cemetary. The historic site is unique because the cemetery is the oldest in the city, being around 200 years old, and a lot of the graves are located above ground. The band and their entourage paid a visit that night to the cemetery because they wanted to visit the grave of a hairdresser from the 1800s called Mary Laveau. There was a lot of folklore around Laveau because she was a free person, she was of mixed ethnicity, and she was said to have psychic powers. She would also serve as the inspiration for the Marvel comic character of the same name. But the band ventured into the wrong area of the cemetery that night. The cemetery had 3 areas, and while Laveau was buried in cemetery number 1, the band and their entourage wandered into cemetery number 2. Residents at a nearby housing project called the police after reporting seeing people coming in and out of the graveyards. Misfits bassist Jerry Only would recall one member of the entourage named Sky, who he referred to as, and I quote, about 6 foot 8 inches tall and weighs 350 pounds. He used to kill people in Afghanistan for money. He used to have us do stuff like unload guns to see who was the fastest with a revolver. After the show, he was like, hey, there's a cemetery around the corner, let's go. It was all these old mausoleums above the ground. These little stone buildings where bodies rot in a year. We pulled in around 3 or 4 in the morning in this bad section of town where there's a murder every night. Before you know it, the cemetery is surrounded by cop cars, and all I hear is, hey Dracula, get your hands up on the wall. We tried to run, but they flushed us out. One of the people who was a member of the group's entourage that night was future I Hate God singer Mike Nine Williams, who was only 15 at the time, and he would recall in an interview, we were there for what probably felt like a half hour, but was probably closer to 10 to 15 minutes before the cops surrounded the place. We saw the patrol cruiser searchlights and people scattered everywhere trying to get to their cars. I just happened to be at the edge of the cemetery where the cop cars were. That's when they nabbed me, and I saw them walking the Misfits over one by one, Glenn and Jerry in handcuffs. Of course, the police started making assumptions immediately. We were robbing graves, we were Satan worshippers, and all the above. A local paper would report about the arrest, writing, and I quote, at the time their arrest at the St. Louis Cemetery number 2, the members of the band called the Misfits were still wearing makeup, including dramatic facial painting, and one woman wore a black dress, fishnet hose, and chain. In total that night, 18 people would be arrested, but the opening act, the Necros, were able to convince the first arriving officers on the scene that they weren't part of the trespassing party. Of the 18 people arrested, only 15 could be charged, since 3 of them were minors. It was following the arrest that one of the minors, a 16-year-old girl with a mohawk who was arrested that night at the cemetery, would file a false arrest and battery complaint, claiming one of the arresting officers struck her in the face with a flashlight when she refused to say whether she was a male or female. The underage members of the party would be bailed out by their parents, while the members of the Misfits would spend the night in jail. According to bassist Jerry Only, the band was given a choice: go to court to fight the charges or plead guilty. The band pled guilty and continued their tour, which headed to Florida next, and it was a month after the incident the band returned to New Orleans, where they were scolded by a local judge and told not to return to the city. The band would end up paying a few $100s in fines and left. However, upon being given their touring van back from police, the band members noticed something strange. While their instruments were all accounted for, the free weights they brought with them to exercise on tour were not. It was possible that the police left one of the doors open the night of the arrest, and some locals may have stolen the free weights. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe. We'll see you again on Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.